Alright, welcome to the video for the Learning Target 2. We've already done Learning Target 1, which was, if you'll remember, was creating ratio tables of equivalent ratios and then finding missing values. So what we're now going to do is we're then going to take that information that we did. Remember when we scaled and all that, we'd scale back and forward and that kind of thing. Now we're going to be able to take that information of our table, and we're going to begin to plot these on a coordinate plane. Now, good news is we've already done coordinate planes, so this should not be a difficult thing. So real quick to recap, you don't have to write this, but let's recap a couple things about the coordinate plane. Now, this grid here, actually maybe I'll just draw another one. It doesn't have to have the grid boxes. That's just to help you count. But a couple things you want to remember from when we did this in Chapter 2 was, first of all, the quadrants. This was quadrant number 1, this was quadrant number 2, this was quadrant 3, and this was quadrant 4. Another thing that we wanted to have of importance that we want to remember is this is the x and this is the y. And the last thing I'm going to point out is when you have an ordered pair, a coordinate, the x value comes first, then the y value. That's how we write coordinates. The coordinate 5, 4 would be right 5 and then up 4. Okay, so this one determines how far you go right or left and whether you go right or left. This one determines whether you go up or down and by how much. Okay, all right. Now remember, this is the origin. That's another piece of information I wanted to remind you of. Okay, and remember the x value is the one that tells us how much to go to the right or how much to go to the left. The y value tells us whether to go up or down and by how many. And remember, we always do the x first. We always go side to side first, kind of like as you guys learned in elementary school. Superman runs before he flies, or I like to think of it as a hospital, and you have to walk into the hospital. You have to walk to the elevator first. Then you go into the elevator and go up or down. Okay? You can see this table right here. Actually, you can read that, but you don't. It's kind of what I just summed up there. The table shows the cost in dollars to create CDs of digital photos at a Photoshop. The table also shows the information as ordered pairs. So basically, it gives you the number of CDs and it shows you the cost of those CDs. So it's just a ratio, guys. It's one CD for every $3. Or you could write it as $3 for one CD. Make sure you're writing this. Okay? That's all it's saying. And then it's, just to go back to this, most of these, they were horizontal tables. So they were showing the ratios vertically, one over top of the other. This is a little bit different only because it's showing them side to side, but it doesn't make a difference. I mean, this could be, this table could be shown like this also. Okay, it could be shown with CDs here, and it could show cost on the bottom, and then you could say, okay, that's one CD is $3, two CDs is $6, and so on. Okay, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, really the biggest thing we're adding to this is we're adding the x and the y. That's really what we're getting. And the first ratio, or the first term in our ratio, is the x. The second term is going to be the y. Okay, so you can see where this is going. The ratio 1 to 3 is going to be at right here, I think, 1, 3. So we went from 0 to 1 because of 1, positive 1. And then we go up to 3, and that's why that point is there. Okay, and then 2 to 6, you can see we're just doubling it. We're multiplying 1 times 2 is 2, so we got to do 3 times 2 and get 6. So that's why that point is 2, 6. And then 3, 9, you can see we're just multiplying by 3 from 1 and multiplying by 3 from 9. And there's where you get 3, 9. So kind of it seems basic, but it'll be practice for you for graphing. So you keep that fresh in your mind, even though we've been doing it on review sheets. But also it's tying everything together. Okay, graphing these ratios, and then basically what you're going to learn when you get into higher level math is you're going to be able to make this into a line. Okay, so you're going to be able to connect this like something like this, and then you'd be able to go up here and look anywhere, and you'd say, oh, right there, that means if I make 5 CDs or 6 or whatever that is, that's how much it would cost, and you can just look directly at the line. Okay, so it kind of all ties together. Okay. All right, I think we did all that. Okay, so pretty obvious here. We're describing the pattern here. That's pretty much describing the ratio. I mean, just like you guys will remember on the test, there was a question. It was 25 basketballs to 10 players, I think. You had to describe it. The description just is that for every 25 basketball players, there are 10. I'm sorry, for every 25 basketballs, there would be 10 players. Or you could simplify it down to this and say, for every 5 basketball players, 5 basketballs, there are 2 players. And then you could flip it the other way and say, for every 10 players, there are 25 basketball players. Or you could say, for every 2 players, there are 5 balls. Okay? So that's all it is when it says describe what's going on. Okay? You just got to figure out exactly what your pattern is, and it kind of gives it away in this example because it's a pretty basic example. Let's go to the next page. All right. 2 friends are saving. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it a little better. 2 friends are each saving money in their bank accounts. Marcus saves $10 each week, while David is going to save $15 each week. Okay, so we're going to have 2 tables here, okay, because we're going to have graphing them both, and then you'll see what we'll do with that here in a minute. So, you know, your week is obviously your X, because that's kind of given away because we're doing this for 4 weeks, right, as it says there. So in the first week, how much is Marcus going to save? $10. Okay, so it's just 1 week is $10, so we're going to graph the point then. That's going to be 110. X, Y. Very easy. Okay, well, now, here we go. If you want to think of this as equivalent ratio table, what did you do to go from 1 to 2? You're multiplying by 2. So what do you got to do to 10? You got to multiply it by 2 to get 20. Okay, so what's my point? It is 220. Okay, then obviously this would be 30 and this would be 40. So your points would be 330 and 440. Okay, over here, David, on the other hand, he's saving 15 a week. So that means he's going to save 15 the first week. So that makes the point 115. What am I doing to go from 1 to 2? Hopefully you're saying times 2. So I got to do 15 times 2. That's going to be 30. And then 45. And then 60. Just counting by 15s, because I know that 1 times 3 is 3. So 15 times 3 is 45. So it's going to be 230. 345 and 460. Okay, so then we're going to take those and we're going to graph them. Now I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit here. Okay, you can see the weeks are here on the x-axis. That's why they're the x value. It makes perfect sense, right? The labels will match. Okay, the y value, that's your amount of money saved. That's why it's here. And in the y, it's why it's the second term. So let's, first of all, I'll do this in 2 colors. And if you have 2 colors, do it. I will do Marcus's in blue. I'll do David's in red. Okay, so we'll start with Marcus. I know that the first point there I've got a graph is 110, so I go over to 1, up to 10. Then I go over to 2 and up to 20. I go over to 3 and up to 30. Okay, and over to 4 and up to 40. Pretty close there. Okay, I'm just graphing these points, these ratios, coordinates, but they are really ratios. Okay, now we should connect these with a line. Okay, it's really not very good, but it's close enough. Okay, now again, now let's do David. I'll do his in red. So I'm going to go over 1, but I'm going to go up to 15. Okay, 230. I'm going to go over to 2 and then up to 30. I'm a little higher than I want to be there, but that's okay. I'm going to go over to 3. I'm going to go to 45, so over 3 up to 45, right there. And then over to 4 and up to 60 all the way up here. I'll get my arrow out again. I use a different color. And there you go. And you can see that this line means it's going to go on forever. So that's kind of why we graph it, because when you guys get into algebra later on in a couple years, you're going to find that you're going to be able to check any parts of these lines. You're going to be able to go to any part and say, okay, that would be this amount of weeks and this amount of money. So you know if you need to save $400, both of these guys, Marcus and David, would both be able to look in here and say, okay, I want to know when does my line hit 400? Okay, is it going to be way up here? Okay, there's 400. Okay, how many weeks is that? Okay, that's kind of the whole point. Okay, that's really what we're trying to do. Okay, that's why we're graphing them. Okay. How do the ratios compare? How do the ratios of Marcus and David's savings account compare? You can see that each week he's saving a little bit more, and it's going up more each week because he's saving more each week, and he's consistently saving it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so the ratios are comparing because Marcus, his ratio is showing for 1 week he is going to save $10. Okay, whereas David is 1 week he's saving $15. So obviously he's gonna save more money in a shorter amount of time than what David is. Okay, let's go on to the next page. Okay, let's take a look at this guy here. Okay, students in the school musical are going to sell tickets. Okay, each student is expected to sell 3 youth tickets and 2 adult tickets. So everybody should be off to the side right now doing this, because I've told you every time you're given that fake ratio or that beginning ratio, you should be writing it over here, because that's the starting point. That's what everything that we're going to do in this problem is going to be based directly on that ratio. That we want to sell, for every 3 we sell of the youth tickets, we want to sell 2 adult tickets. That's the whole point. Okay? The students are going to use a table to predict how many tickets will be sold. Complete the table and plot the pairs of ratios. So number of youth tickets, we can go ahead and put 3. Notice we call this our x value. So that means my x-axis, which we need to label here, always. Okay? That's going to be representing the youth tickets. Okay? And the y value, that's going to be representing the adult ticks. Okay? So we know it's the beginning ratio is 3 to 2. So we look here and say, okay, what did I do to my number of youth tickets? Well, I multiplied by 2, right? So what does that mean I need to do to my number of adult tickets? The same thing. So we know that 6 to 4 is the exact same ratio. Okay? Now, does anybody in here, or that's listening to the video, do you guys know what you're doing to go from 4 to 6? Does anybody know that? Probably not. Okay? Now you could figure it out, but that's not the point. You don't have to do more work than it's worth. Just look up the 2 and say, wait a minute, I know that what I'm doing to go from 2 to 6, I'd be multiplying by 3, right? So in order to get what this one would be, I got to do 3 times 3, and I'm going to get 9. So 3 youth for every 2 adult tickets, that's the same as 6 youths for every 4 adults, and 9 youths for every 6 adults. It's the same thing, okay? Here we go. Let's do this one then. Okay, so now we got 12 here. We got to somehow figure out which one of these is going to become 12. We really can't use 9. Really can't use 9 because we don't know what we're multiplying by to go from 9 to 12. So you can either use 6 or 3, either one. I'm just going to use 6 because it's right there. So I'm going to use that one, and I'm going to say, okay, what did I do to go from 6 to 2 or to 12? I multiplied by 2. So I go over here and I look at 4, since I used that ratio, right? And I do times 2, and I'm going to get 8. And there we go. Now I know that all of these are my equivalent ratios. Now we better add on here another table for our coordinates, right? Just like we did on the previous question. Okay. So this column here is going to represent my coordinate, x, y. So this first one will be 3, 2. You should be putting this on yours. This one is going to be 6 to 4. Okay. This one is going to be 9 to 6. And then the last one is going to be 12 to 8. Okay. All right, here we go. Now let's plot these on this number line. Okay, so the first one is 3, 2. So again, everything starts right here at the origin. We're going to go 3, 2 here. So that means that if my point's 3, 2, I'm going to go over to 3 and then up to 2. Just do your best there. Okay. I'll do these in all different colors so we can see them. Okay, the blue one will do 6, 4. So I'm going to go right over here to 6, and then I'm going to go up to 4. Okay. That's blue. We'll do green right here. Over to 9, up to 6. So over to 9, up to 6, about right there. It's not perfect, but it's close. Okay. And then finally we'll do light blue, 12 to 8. So I'm going to go over to 12 and then all the way up to 8. About right there. Might be a little high. Okay. And really what we're trying to get you to see here is these are going to form a straight line. Now I can't get it to be perfect here, but you want it to create a straight line. That's the whole point. As you can see, they're pretty close. I mean, if we had actual grid on here, it would be. But that means we could keep going here forever. I could figure out any amount of youth tickets or adult tickets now. If I wanted to know, what if I was really good and I sold 36 youth tickets? Well, what did you do to go to 12 to 36? You multiplied by 3. So what do you got to do to 8? You got to multiply it by 3. So 24. So I know that the point 36, 24 is going to somewhere beyond this line. Now, my actual coordinate plane doesn't go far enough to show it, but it's going to be somewhere out here somewhere. Okay, and it's going to be right on that line. If I extend that line out, if I continue to extend it out forever, I could have, whoops, oh boy, it's getting wild. Okay, but you get the picture that anything on this line is a combination of youth tickets and adult tickets. Okay, based on that first fake ratio. Okay, so I don't think this is difficult. I don't think it's hard. I think it might just be kind of new and maybe not making total sense, but it will. I mean, everything comes back down to ratios, guys. You have to see it. So hopefully you understand that. I think that's the last page here to make sure. Yep, it is. So not difficult, but maybe a little new. So if nothing else, it was a good review of coordinate plane. See you guys.